In a Nuzlocke, the level cap brings the most difficulty to the challenge. Being restricted to the same level as your opponents does make the game more challenging, but even then, Nuzlockes are still way too easy. So for this challenge, let's bring the level cap all the way down. For every gym leader I face, I have to use the same level cap as the previous gym leader. So if I'm at the third gym, my Pokemon can only be at the same level as a second gym leader. This challenge was pretty difficult to plan out and didn't seem possible in a lot of games. X and Y has a level jump of 13 levels from the first to second gym, which is near impossible, so HeartGold seemed like the only choice. As always, I do have to pick a starter. Because our level isn't going to reach a high level until very late in the game, I want to get a Pokemon that evolves as early as possible. Out of the 3 starters, Feraligatr evolves the earliest at level 30, so once I pick it up and get the running shoes from the old man, I can meet my rival. Lyra then gives me some Pokeballs to start my adventure. Right now the level cap is set at 10. Since there's no previous gym leader, I think level 10 is appropriate. My first encounter is a Rattata. Normally I would dismiss this, but having stab normal attacks early in the game is going to be very useful. Route 30 also gives me a Caterpie, which is very welcome on my team. In the Dark Cave, I can catch a third early game staple in Zubat. Now I can head up to Sprout Tower to calm down Silver and defeat the Elder to prove our mastery of Pokemon. Just before entering the first gym, I head down to Route 32 and find myself a clutch Mareep for the type advantage. The fight against Falkner goes all according to plan. Even with the level deficit, I still outlevel his Pidgey, which goes down to my Rattata easily. Pidgeotto does give me a bit of trouble, but I put it to sleep with Ghastly, then knock it out with Thunder Shocks. It's a pretty decisive win. I exit the gym and Professor Elm calls me to tell us about his egg. He has it delivered to me at the Pokemart and I hatch it into a Togepi. I can backtrack to Cherry Grove to fish in the waters and catch myself a Magikarp. Obviously not useful now, but it'll be a great Pokemon later on. I can then head into Union Cave to catch myself another Nuzlocke standard in Geodude. Azalea Town is currently overrun with Team Rocket Grunts, and they all lead me into Slowpoke Well. I chase after them, and at the end of the cave, I reach Proton. His whole team dies to my Thunder Shock, so I can quickly force them out and move on to fight Bugsy. With my level cap only being 13, Bugsy's ace is 4 levels higher than me. Scyther has the stats of a fully evolved Pokemon, and will be very hard to counter. I lead with my Geodude who has the best matchup. They use a Focus Energy, so I can hit a quad effective Rock Throw into the yellow. They don't go for a U-turn, which allows me to hit a second Rock Throw, fainting it out. The last of Bugsy's Pokemon go down to Rock Throws to win us the Hive Badge. Before exiting the town, my rival catches me off guard and challenges me to a battle. His Ghastly curses us, cutting his health in half, which lets me knock it out with a Bite. Rock Throw from Geodude one-shots his Zubat, bringing in Bayleef. His levels are much higher than mine, so I pivot around a little bit before swapping to Ghastly and cursing to chip away at his health, eventually taking it out. I'm gonna have to be careful about these random trainer battles. Since we tend to be under-leveled, there's a very high chance of coming across a trainer that can easily wipe us out. In Elix Forest, I make sure to teach Totodile Headbutt because I will be headbutting trees for encounters later on in the run. Route 34 gives me a Drowsy, which is a very important encounter. In Goldenrod City, this person in the shopping mall is willing to trade his Machop for our Drowsy, which gives us a type advantage against Whitney. After that, I can head to the Goldenrod radio tower and answer all the quiz questions correctly so that Whitney can return to her gym. Before engaging Whitney in a battle, I make sure to pre-poison Machop since it has the Guts ability. This way, I'll get the 50% attack boost to all my offense. Her Clefairy immediately goes down to a Karate Chop, which brings in her big bad Miltank. I lock the Miltank into Rollout, and then hit off a couple Magnitudes to bring Miltank down to the yellow. Rollout's just piling up damage, so I sack my Ghastly to bring in Slowpoke safely for a Yawn. I can then swap back to Machop, who can finish off the Miltank with Karate Chops. With Whitney defeated, she starts acting like a crybaby, and then I have to ask her nicely again, twice, to stop her from crying and getting my hands on the 3rd gym badge. With 3 badges earned, the next gym leader is going to be using Pokemon up to level 25, but our levels can't be higher than 19. National Park up ahead is known for its bug catching contest, which can provide me with various useful items, but the encounter we get isn't even a bug type. Heading north towards Ecruteak City, I get the static Sudowoodo encounter on Route 35, but in hindsight, I think the guaranteed Growlithe would have been much more useful. Route 37 gives me a Stantler, which is a strong normal Pokemon with the Intimidate ability. I also forget that back in Goldenrod City, I can talk to Bill for his gift Eevee. This will be an extremely important encounter because Espeon and Umbreon are friendship evolutions that can evolve at any time. I head into the Burn Tower where Morty is hiding out. Here we can meet a new character in Ucine. He's super invested in finding Suicune, but I'm more invested in our rival here. He starts our battle with us with a Ghastly, which I can knock out with my Togetix Extrasensory. I swap into Machop who gets paralyzed, increasing our damage to knock out Magnemite. His Zubat goes down to my Thunder Shocks, and his Bayleef gets countered by Butterfree for the easy win. I can now head downstairs to greet the legendary dogs, and they'll get scared away and run off. Down here, I can catch myself a Coughing for a solid poison type encounter. In the Critique gym, I prepare myself to face a team of ghost types. Morty's team only consists of the Ghastly line, which means that Toga take an extra sensory to knock out his first Ghastly. I extra sensory his Haunter to take it out, and his ace Gengar comes out. I swapped a Stantler who completely walls the Gengar with its normal typing. I can stall it out of Sucker Punches and slowly chip away at it with Astonishes. Finally, his last Haunter gets put to sleep and knocked out with Astonishes. Defeating Morty means that our level cap takes a big jump to 25. I move forward in the story and head west to go to Olivine. In Route 38 to the west, Tauros jumps out. Tauros is another strong Pokemon, big attack, fast speed, and intimidate ability. Route 39 shows us a Magnemite which I make sure to snatch up. Finally, I can reach Olivine City, but before I can progress to any gyms, I first have to go up the lighthouse to find Olivia. The lighthouse is a training ground and has a bunch of trainers to fight, but that's not good for us in this challenge. With so many high-level trainers to fight, the risk we take by engaging will surely faint our Pokemon. So I have to make sure to avoid as many trainers as possible. Once I reach the top, Olivia tells me that her poor Amphi is sick and needs a secret potion to feel better, and it's our job to go fetch it for her. But before going to do so, I head back to Critique City to save the Kimono girls from the rocket grunts. This is actually required to trigger the next part of the story, so it's fine. The grunt fight was easy, but more importantly, the Kimono girl gives us the HM for surf, which allows me to surf west towards Signwood. On the waters, I can catch a Krabby from Olivine, a Staryu in Route 40, and a Tentacruel from 41. Signwood Gym is a training area for fighting type Pokemon. Chuck only has 2 Pokemon, Primeape and Poliwrath, but his levels are 31. I start with Crobat to confuse Ray Primeape. Then, as it hits itself in confusion, I can knock it out with 2 wing attacks. Poliwrath comes out, and I go for a second Confuse Ray. I wing attack again, but its defenses are much higher. I take it down to the yellow, but a Body Slam paralyzes Crobat. Gyarados comes in to lower its attack when Intimidate, but also gets paralyzed as I land a Dragon Rage. I swap the Slowbro for Yawn, then swap in a Butterfree who can finish out the Poliwrath with Side Beams for the victory. With this gym badge, Chuck gives us another big jump for the level cap to 31. Pokémon HeartGold has a non-linear story for the gyms, meaning that gyms 5, 6, and 7 can be faced in any order. And since I don't want to be limiting my Pokemon for any of the fights, I'm gonna fight the next gyms in order of increasing level, so Pryce is up next. After taking some time to level up my Pokemon, catching some encounters, and headbutting trees to catch some others, I get notified that something fishy is going on at the Lake of Rage. After checking out the shiny Gyarados, I follow Lance into the Rocket hideout. There's a bunch of grunts guarding the place, but their levels are all too low for us to care. I reach the end of the hideout where Giovanni's hiding out, and Petrel reveals himself, challenging us to a battle. His Zubat goes down to a Thunderbolt, and so too does his Coughing. His Raticate hits a Hyper Fang, but gets paralyzed by static, so 2 Thunderbolts can take it out with ease. His Murkrow gives us the password to shut off the Electro Generator, but before we can go in and do so, Rocket Admin Ariana stops us. Lance teams up with us with his level 40 Dragonite, and I'm leading my Flaffy. Dragonite flies up as I T-Bolt a Drowsy, and Fly kills the incoming Grimer. I Thunderbolt Arbok for big damage and take it out with a second T-Bolt. Murkrow dies to my Thunderbolt, and the final Gloom goes down to a wing attack from Crobat. With Ariana defeated, Lance gives us the HM for Whirlpool, and I can head on to fight Pryce. All of a sudden, I realize that the only reason I'm out here is to get the secret potion for Olivia. So first, I fly back to Olivine to deliver the medicine. Immediately, Amphi feels better, so Olivia heads back to her gym. But before I can move on, I get a call from the Safari Zone that has now opened up a bunch of encounters for me to catch. On the trek there, Chinchou is caught on Route 47, and the cave gives me an Onix. Route 48 sends me Fearow, and the Safari Zone finally gets me a Magmar. With all these new encounters caught, it's time to face Pryce in the easiest battle ever. He leads with a Seal, which I can just take out with Magneton's Thunderbolt. I swapped a Butterfree on Earthquake and put the Pillow-Swine to sleep. Ice Fang does freeze my Lantern, so I pivot into Heracross who can Brick Break to kill. Finally, his Dugong also dies to a Brick Break, earning us the 6th Johto badge. I fly back to Olivine City where I can meet up with Olivia. She has a strong set of Steel types, but Heracross makes light work of her team. With the Guts attack boost, Brick Break 3-0s her entire team for the win. I fly back to the Goldenrod radio station, where we gotta stop Team Rocket from taking over. I march up to the head office where Proton's waiting for us, and his team of poison types has nothing on my Magneton since Thunderbolt can take out all 6 of his Coughings. He then gives us the basement key to access the rest of the building. Just as I step foot into the base, Silver challenges us to a battle where Flamethrower can burn up his whole team. After figuring out the puzzle in the basement, the Radio Tower director gives us a keycard that lets us go back into the radio tower wherever Giovanni's hiding. Proton tries to stop us, but Tentacruel can get rid of his Weezings. Ariana also tries to stand on our way, but she gets handled by Noctowl. Finally, I can go up the elevator, only to see that Archer's the one behind the operations. Now this battle with his team is the first really challenging battle in this game. I serve as Houndour for the kill, and his Houndoom lands a big fan attack. I have to swap to Crobat, which also gets crit, but we can retaliate and kill with a fly. I swap to Noctowl on Coughing, and finish the battle with Confusions. With Team Rocket gone, the director gives us the Rainbow Wing as thanks. Now that the evil team is abolished, I can move on to the next gym. I navigate through the ice puzzles and ice path to eventually reach Blackthorn City. Without wasting any more time, I go straight into the Claire fight. Leading with Magneton, its Thunderbolts can one-shot her Gyarados. Dragonite Fire Blast into Lantern, which retaliates with Ice Beam to take it out. Here she sends in her Kingdra. I send in my Growler for the safe sacrifice to bring in Jumpluff. I then use a competitive moveset of Leech Seed Substitute and Sleep Powder to stall and feint the Kingdra. With the Kingdra down, I can now do the same strat against her final Dragonair for the win. Claire refuses to give the gym badge to us, but by going into the Dragon Den and tattling on the Elder, she's forced to give us the badge. So now there's one last thing before we can start thinking about the Indigo Plateau. We have the Rainbow Wing to summon Ho-Oh, but Ho-Oh won't show up without the Kimono Girls, so I have to prove to them that I'm worthy. By defeating the girls and their evolutions, they agree to come up to the bell tower to help us summon Ho-Oh. After engaging the Ho-Oh in battle, paralyzing it in low health, a couple Ultra Balls was all I needed to bring the Ho-Oh into my box. Now all that's left in front of me is Victory Road. The Johto Victory Road isn't actually all that special. There aren't any trainers, there's just puzzles for us to solve, and one last rival fight at the end. He brings out his Sneasel first, who Magneton can Thunderbolt for the kill. Golbat is also another easy T-Bolt for Magneton, which brings out Meganium. I swap in a Crobat to Confuse Ray and knock it out with Cross Poisons. His Kadabra comes out, so I swap in a Tauros, who can deal big damage with Stab Strengths. His own Magneton gets countered by Quagsire, a new addition who's likely to join the Elite Four team. EQ knocks out the Magneton, and his final Haunter is sent out. He Confuse Rays, then Mean Looks, preventing me from switching out. I do land a Waterfall for big damage, but then he lands a critical Shadow Ball to knock out my Quagsire. Gyarados can finish off the Haunter, but losing a potential Elite Four member this late into the game kinda sucks. This makes planning the Elite Four team kinda difficult because Quagsire used to fill a niche on the team that now leaves a gap, but I do manage to scrounge up a decent team for the Elite Four. The first few fights won't be hard, but the champion fight will have us fighting at a 9-level deficit. I start off the battle with Will by Ice Fanging Xatu. His incoming Jinx hits a massive Psychic, but a Waterfall can bring Jinx down to the red. I swap to Lantern on the heal, then Signal Beam Jinx for damage. They Psychic us for half my health, but Signal Beam crits to knock out the Jinx. Executor on their side sets up a Reflect, but Signal Beam is still quad effective. Psychic brings my Lantern down to 2 HP, but we hang on to Signal Beam for the kill. I swap out on Slowbro for Starmie, who has Thunderbolts to chip away at it. And finally, his second Xatu goes down to Thunderbolts from Magneton. This first battle was a pretty easy win since our levels were even. The second Elite Four member is Koga. Dodrio hits a fly into Ariados to instantly one-shot, which brings out Fortress. I substitute, then fly to chip away at it. Eventually, after a couple turns of stalling, it explodes into my substitute. Muck Gunk Shocks to remove the sub, but Stab Return does big damage to kill. Crobat comes out to wing attack Dodrio, so I have to swap out to Lantern to kill with a T-Bolt. Venomoth warrants a swap into Magneton, who can Metal Slam to drop its special defenses. From here, a single Thunderbolt knocks it out, winning us the second battle. Bruno is a master of fighting types. I lead with Heracross and knock out the Hitmontop with a Brick Break. His Hitmonlee comes out and gets intimidated by my Gyarados, and then it goes down to a Stab Waterfall. Onix as well goes down to Waterfall, which brings in Hitmonchan. I swap into Lantern, who can Thunderbolt to paralyze, and he heals Hitmonchan back up, but I can continue to Thunderbolt to chip it down for the kill. Finally, his big boy Machamp cross chops into Starmie, which crits us into the red. I recover Starmie for some health back, but a second crit and Rock Slide knocks out my star Pokemon. I swap in Heracross, who tanks a Rock Slide in the red, and close combats for the kill. On the fight with Karen, I start by Brick Breaking the Umbreon to kill. Thunderbolt one-shots her Murkrow. I pivot into Lantern to serve as a nasty plot. I swap in Gyarados where Dark Pulse brings us to the yellow, but Waterfall can pick up the revenge kill. Dodrio comes in on Vileplume, who substitutes and flies up for big damage. Return can then pick up the kill on the next turn. Gengar Focus Blasts but misses, so Fly deals half of his health and damage. A second Fly hits to kill the Gengar and wins us the last Elite Four battle. Coming up is a Champion Lance, where we're playing with one fainted Pokemon and a 9-level disadvantage. Lance starts the fight with a Gyarados. Magneton tanks a hit, then hits back with a Thunderbolt to kill. He then sends in his Charizard, who uses a Fire Fang. I swap in a Gyarados to tank the damage and allows me to get off a Waterfall off safely. They crit their next Shadow Claw, which brings Gyarados down to the red, but Waterfall can retaliate for the kill. I sack Gyarados on the Aerodactyl to bring in Magneton, who can Thunderbolt Aerodactyl, paralyzing it as well. This gives me the free kill on Aero without taking damage on Magneton. His strongest Dragonite comes out and I swap to Dodrio to tank an Outrage. Dodrio does die, so I send in my Heracross next to stall out Outrages with Protect, then sack Heracross to bring in Magneton. Magneton can Metal Sound to reduce its special defense, but Dragonite snaps out of the Para-Confusion tricks and Outrages to kill Magneton. I'm down to my final Pokemon Lantern. I gave Lantern choice specs to boost its damage and Ice Beam kills the Dragonite. Lance sends out his second Dragonite which misses a Dragon Rush and dies instantly to Ice Beam. Maybe this is possible. His final Dragonite does land Dragon Rush, bringing Lantern to the red. Ice Beam lands but just barely doesn't pick up the kill. It lives on 1 HP, so Lance heals it up as Ice Beam does the same thing again. Lance heals again, but again, Ice Beam does not kill, even picking up the freeze. Lance still has another potion which makes my freeze useless, so I hit one more Ice Beam, which still refuses to kill. Dragonite hits his last Dragon Rush, killing my Lantern and ending my run here. That was so frustrating. The way this game was just edging me for the win was unbearable, and we still lost. I chose HeartGold because it would be the easiest game to do this challenge, and we lost. But if you want to see me try this challenge in another game, leave a comment down below and stay tuned.